Hi guys, thanks a lot. This is Pax Europiana with my video about the Future of Europe conference. Because it's a big moment now, the Future of Europe conference is launched, and this is my video to discuss what are the most important priorities for this conference. It's very important to focus on enlargement of the European Union and to prepare for first 3 more countries, North Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, and then 6 more countries, and that's Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Serbia, Kosovo and Bosnia. This is the most important priority for the future of Europe, to get these 9 European countries in the European Union. And that's basically the overriding priority. Everything else is minor and less important. Because why the European Union works, it's a successful project, and this is the most important priority. But there are also 2 other issues which have to be mentioned, which are really important. This means that the EU itself is joining NATO, and also that the EU neutrals are joining NATO, and also we conclude a free trade agreement with the United States of America called TTIP. And this is basically the part of the same process, because by securing our eastern borders with Russia, our relationship with Russia, by enlarging, we also have to protect ourselves by a closer alliance with the United States of America. And in order to win the whole popular support and also the confrontation with Russia, in which we are unfortunately, we have to be richer and more successful economically, and for this we need this free trade agreement with the United States of America and the other free trade agreements, and like Mercosur and ASEAN agreement and the African agreement, but they are anyhow in the pipeline, and hopefully wisdom will prevail to get them done very fast. But these are the most important 3 issues: the EU-NATO enlargement, the EU joining NATO itself, and also the TTIP with the US. And there's other issues I would like to mention. We have to also strengthen our European level rule of law mechanisms, because more countries, especially medium and smaller countries, but as we have seen also in France, it's a lot of corruption. We need a US-style federal law execution and prosecution. Our federal prosecutor, which we have now, is not powerful enough. We need also real kind of FBI-style authority to take on political corruption in the member states. There's a lot of that, unfortunately, because small countries are easy to be controlled, and greedy and rapacious kind of political elites tend to control their network, get rich fast, and have control of the prosecutor office. And we need a European prosecutor which has also prosecutorial authority over all cases which he wants to have, especially for political corruption and organized criminality. And obviously we need also the adequate level of European rule of law mechanism in all aspects. And this is very important, because small countries can never have this level of justice like bigger countries, simply because collusion and corruption goes hand in hand. And the law authorities are appointed by the Prime Minister, they should supervise, and it's often once the Prime Minister is the prime risk and the prime corrupt person, then everything is somehow blocked. And this we need to really get as well going. Additionally, we have many other aspects where we have to have more powerful European institutions in the competition, in the energy, and in many other aspects. We need to get away from all the regulators being dependent on the prime ministers, but they have to be dependent on the commissioners, and we have to do a more objective implementation of our regulation, and we have to reduce the power of the nation state in the European context. That's really absolutely important. I have seen now in 2015, 2018, 2020, always closing borders, closing the outside borders, like the Mediterranean Sea, the Atlantic, and the border to Russia or to Syria. Yes, I think there is a reason on that one. And controlling our airports and seaports better. Yes, But inner European borders between Austria and Germany, Austria and France, Austria and Germany and Denmark, and all this is only doing so much harm and doesn't help anything. It's just populistic reflexes of failed politicians to impose their will on their neighbors by force. And the bigger countries win in that one, the smaller ones lose, and the poorer ones lose. And we built Europe against such kind of border closing populism. And so the power to close EU internal borders has to be taken away from the member states, has to be granted to Frontex, and we need also to make sure that these borders basically physically disappear, inner European borders. And only the outer European borders, like the airports and the seaports, and also the border along the Turkish-Syrian border, Turkish-Iraqi, Turkish-Iranian, and especially the very contentious border with Russia, has to be much more secured and basically build stronger fortifications against our hostile neighbors, unfortunately, Russia, Iran and Syria. But that's anyhow what Turkey is doing at the moment, and what is happening along the Ukrainian-Russian border, but also along Belarusian border and up to Finland-Russian border. Here we have to really invest. But in European EU borders, and also our relation with our NATO allies in UK and Finland, Norway and also Turkey has to be improved. Here's absolutely some new way of thinking must be done. I actually am quite critical to Brussels these days because unfortunately there is a real lack of capacity and vision in Brussels these days. I don't know why that is. It's for me very confusing. But I hope the future of Europe will be see a much stronger and more powerful European Union, stronger allied with the United States and the United Kingdom, obviously as one of the four big unions of the West, with the UK, with Canada and the USA, and to be much more successful. But it needs to be a little bit of a shake-up and some better strategy. That's absolutely necessary. So I'm optimist for a strong, more united and enlarged Europe, no doubt. But I say absolutely no to all these autarkies, kind of Yugoslavianisms, sovereignism from Paris. We have to tackle Mr. Macron and make sure that his influence will be lower. And we can also theoretically discuss the exit of France from the European Union, because ultimately we don't necessarily need it. If the French want to impose their will on the rest of Europe, we have to say goodbye to France. If it's necessary, it's obviously said. They can stay in the customs union, then we have just less political issues, but they can also stay rich and we stay united in the customs union. But if they want to impose any kind of post-Brexit French Europe, we have to say no to that. Absolutely. I think the Habsburg would have agreed, and the location is funny for that. But I think it's not about the past. It's not about any kind of anti-French feelings. I don't have it. I love France as well. But the point is, we cannot be driven by the French in an anti-Americanism. That would be lethal, and that would lead to a Russian Europe, and that we absolutely have to avoid. So that's my consideration for the Conference of the Future of Europe. A strong Europe, more united, more enlarged, including Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia, Serbia, Bosnia and Kosovo, and if necessary, without France. But of course much better with it, and obviously it's much better to stay united and to work closely with our allies also in the West, and to live up to our challenges, but not by closing borders, but by more openness and more unity and more enlargement for the future of Europe. Thanks a lot.